This video is about one of my favorite painting techniques, which has been used for centuries and at most by realist portrait painters. Grisaille, or grisaille, means gray area in Italian. This technique uses a monochromatic underpainting to render stunning forms followed by glazing and color. This technique creates such a range of values and it makes subjects look sculptural and really gives the illusion of the third dimension. The color I'm using in this underpainting is a mixture of ivory, black, and raw sienna. Sometimes the caps can be stubborn, so I use pliers to open these sticky paints. I'm using a small amount of each pigment because the underpainting I like is usually a thin layer. This will be enough to cover my whole canvas once I mix it with medium. My medium is also a mixture of liquin and walnut oil. Liquin speeds up the drying time and also adds a gloss to the painting. I cut it with walnut oil because it's less toxic and helps prevent yellowing and cracking over time. Shake the liquin before you squeeze a glob onto your palette. You can see it's like the consistency of a thin jelly. I like to make room for the walnut oil in the middle, like when you make a hole in a pile of flour for eggs in a pasta recipe. And then I mix it together with my palette knife. When the medium is all mixed, then I mix the pigments together, and then I mix it all together, leaving a different variety of thinner and thicker mixture to control my lights and darks. Here I have the image drawn up on the canvas, just in pencil, and I can dip into the paint and start smearing it all over the canvas. At this point, the mixture is so thin I can still see the graphite drawing beneath the paint. Next is blending. I like to use these big, fluffy, soft brushes because you can push around the paint really gently. I soften all of my initial brush strokes by gently but quickly brushing the surface of the canvas. Next, I use a smaller, dry brush to scrub away some of the paint where I want the highlights to come out. When my brush begins to feel full, I can just wipe it off on a piece of cloth or paper towel. As I begin to render out the details on this first layer, I can also add darks to carve out some of the shapes into the foreground and really start to bring those forms to life. I go back and forth rendering out the darks and pushing the highlights and carving out detail until I get this. From here, I use just white and I render out the highlights even further until I'm happy with my underpainting. For color, I'm using viridian green, sap green, and one of each of the primaries, yellow, red, and blue, lemon yellow, cadmium red, and ultramarine blue. Using my medium of liquid and walnut oil, I begin to layer the color over the monochromatic underpainting. Overall, this painting took me about 60 hours and probably has 6 layers of paint. Just keep going until you're happy with the results.